is representing Q36.5, a rider who hails from Melbourne in Victoria in Australia, and Natnael Berhane, the 33-year-old of the Begos team. Long European career with Europcar and Cofidis before racing for this Turkish team. And Berhane, in our breakaway, is a former winner of this race. That was 11 years ago when he won on El Maleh, the Apple Town, and also won the overall classification. Situation is that these two riders have almost 4 minutes, meaning that our virtual leader is Natnael Berhane, but this is basically the elevation that we have in our race, because from kilometer point 77 from our
wind coming off to see everybody's pinned on the right hand side of the road, and if this was a classic, you know, there would be echelons, but because it's a stage race, you know, everybody kind of knows their place, and you can see the speed that they're moving along. Everybody's kind of quite comfortable for the moment, but as we get further along, you know, it'll get more and more desperate.
The DSM Firmenich PostNL team, of course, at the front with Julius van den Berg, the flowing blonde manes at the front. Also in the team, of course, Tobias Lund Andresen, Frank van der Broek, our leader. We have Johan Dorsen, our Lantern Rouge in the general classification after a crash on the opening day. Fabio Jacobsen, in my opinion, the man to beat today, and his lead-out man of Eritrea, 33 years of age. Beautiful modern structure, this mosque here. We're racing through the town of Urla. And James Whelan, he's 27, and after his win in the Tour of Flanders for the under-23 riders in what actually was his very first race on European soil. He'd never raced in Europe before. First race, Tour of Flanders, immediately wins it. If you look at the top 10 of that 2018 Tour of Flanders for the under-23s, he beat Max Kanter. He's, of course, in this race. Robert Stannard, sadly, didn't get a new contract. Kamil Maleczki, Andreas Stokbro, also in this race with Unibet. Mark Hirschi, Sean Bennett, Damien Toussaint, Filippo Rocchetti, a rider who didn't break through after his ranks, and Cyrus Monk. So, and my man Rasmus Tillett was 14th that day. So these under-23 races are always a good indication of what is to come next. For James Whelan, that meant that he moved to Team EF Education first, stayed there for 3 seasons, and then after the 2021 season didn't get a new contract. And yeah, it was a hard time for James, because he was still quite young and had to find his way through the peloton, especially during the COVID years. Being from Australia, you might remember that it was really, really hard for Australian riders to leave Australia, but also to travel back. There were long waiting lists for the flights that were available. He won the Tour Down Under with Team Bridgelane, one of the biggest continental teams down under, a sort of slimmed down version of the Tour Down Under, because foreign riders were not allowed just in. And he had to live off his savings for quite some time in 2022. He did decide to come back to Europe in 2023. Did a lot of training, a lot of races on the Spanish national circuit, the NRS, the National Racing Series, and was approached by one of the Portuguese teams called Glass Drive Q8. Joined them on a zero money contract. He only got equipment. He got shirt, he got equipment, but he didn't get a salary because the budget was already maxed out. But he did win the Queen stage of the Tour of Portugal. And yeah, that got him back onto the radar. There were teams lined up for him in 2023, both Bora Hansgrohe and also Bolton Equities. But both of these deals fell through. So he was left without a team, James Whelan, at the end of 2023. Lived 22, lived off general classification in Tour of Scandinavia after a rather exciting battle for bonus seconds. This also looks to be an interesting battle for bonus seconds. We still have 1 second to go. And we're making a real sprint out of it for that one remaining second. hard to say who won it because we didn't get the overhead view, but we did have Ryan Mullen involved. We had Frederik Vandaal involved, Mirko Maestri involved as well. Interesting. A little sprint for that last remaining second.
It looked like a prelude to the finish there almost. You know, there's a number of the top guys, and you can see Mark Cavendish there in fourth position. Kind of, you wonder if they were just doing that just to see how they felt at that kind of level of intensity.
Yeah, you mentioned that a Grand Tour is also quite a mental battle. I've done quite a few Grand Tours and always noticed that most crashes happen on days that nothing happens. You know, you've got your flat sprint stage, you've got a breakaway, and everybody's kind of dozing off in the peloton. And that moment of inattentiveness is quite often causing some problems. Because when everybody's focused and is expecting things to happen, everybody's awake and ready. But on these long sprint days that you have, luckily we don't have the 200-kilometer plus sprint days that much anymore. It's really hard to stay focused for 5 hours plus.
Yep, you have a level of autopilot.
Yeah, exactly.
You just go along and things happened and you don't really notice, and then suddenly you don't. An hour later you think, what happened to that last hour? Because you've been paying attention, but you haven't kind of kept what's happened at all. So yeah, you kind of get used to that. And there's certain riders, their autopilot's pretty low, you know, so that you know, if you look at riders like Geraint Thomas, for example, you expect him to fall at some time during a Grand Tour, because it looks like his level of what I used to call autopilot is slightly less attentive than everybody else. So,
and stray bottles. Bottles and Geraint Thomas.
My experience is there's certain teams, if there's money to be won, then you go and win it. It can be quite ruthless. You know, there's not really very many gifts, you know, given.
There is 330 euros available for the points classification, and also 330 euros available for the Treasures of Turkey intermediate sprint that we just had. Both of these today were actually granted to Natna Helberane and the Bakos team.
So that's, you know, so seven riders, one part for the the staff. So that's 8.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. You know, one bottle of champagne at the hotel and the whole thing, the whole budget's blown.
I don't know what the kind of champagne is that you drink. Now, another sprint there for the one remaining point in this classification by the Sport Toto guys. Yeah, this is of course going to eat in to the time gap of our two leaders. It looks like Vincent Dawn is going for it together with Zabok. Yeah, Dawn has it. And this means also that he's got 16 points in that.
Saves their troops for the Fabio Jakobsen assault on the victory that's coming up. You know, they're quite happy. Everybody's quite happy with this situation, kind of strolling along at a steady 45-50 kilometers an hour.
We're making our way to Izmir, which is was previously known as Smyrna. And one of the famous inhabitants of Smyrna was actually one of the earliest Christian bishops, Saint Polycarp. He's one of the apostolic fathers, and that is the group of apostles basically who got taught by the first 12 apostles. So he's born in 69 AD and died here in 155 AD. One of the earliest Christian martyrs as well, Saint Polycarp, and revered in both the Western Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox churches. And he's a martyr because early on at the start of the first millennium, Christians were persecuted not only in Rome by Nero, and when he got his fire and everything and blamed the Christians for it, but also here in Turkey, in Asia Minor as it was called back then. And Yeah, they basically put him on a stake to burn him, Pippa, but he didn't burn. So they had to resort to a dagger to kill him. So yeah, the fact, of course, that he didn't burn was enough ground to gain him martyrdom. And he was born and died here in Izmir when it was called Smyrna, and being one of the earliest bishops of the region.
That sounds a bit like one of those stories where, in the UK they used to drown witches, and
yeah, that was a really stupid thing. If you drown, 7 riders here, but for example, Bora Hansgrohe down to 6, DSM Firmenich down to 6. Alpecin Pimapen, as they're called in this race, are down to 5 riders. Astana Kazakhstan still with 6 riders, and that's the teams of the major sprinters that we can expect. Burgos Beace with George Jackson might be a team we see at the front. Yesterday we talked a lot about Victor Langelotti, Pippas, being one of the contenders. This morning he spoke to Sarper Gunzal on the podium, one of the 2 announcers, and said he had a flat tyre in the final 5 kilometres of the climb. So that kind of explains why we didn't see him at the front end of the race yesterday. It was Mario Aparicio, his teammate, who got the team a top 10 place.
You get the feeling here that when Bora are sitting back there, 5th position, I've got this feeling that, as soon as they take it up, that gap's going to disappear and everybody's going to be in one line, because they're pretty well drilled at doing that sort of thing. You can start seeing that kind of slowly the teams are organising themselves into what, as would you described it, those colour blocks. You can see it becomes more and more serious as they get closer to the finish. And also, because we've really entered this city now, that everybody's afraid there's going to be road furniture, so that kind of puts even more pressure on them to be at the front and back in the cars. The drivers are supposed to be seen move up those corners, come in, and that naturally raises the speeds, and it'll be difficult for the
really hard times for the people of Turkey with the money that they have, one day being worth 10, 20, 30, 40% less 1 week later. A very bold economic strategy, to put it mildly, by the Turkish national government. But it does result in some really nice high rises alongside the course today. I like a bit of a modern town, the big high-rise buildings that you have here. Not everybody's cup of tea, but I do like them. Polti Cometa also getting to the front. Remember, Giovanni Lonardi in that green jersey, already a stage winner after the relegation of Van Poppel, after a rather dangerous move and a little bit of a nick in the course as well. We see Team Novo Nordisk coming to the front, quite possibly for Andrea Perron. Their sprinter Matthias Kopecki didn't take the start yesterday. And look at that blue path there. That is a dedicated bike path, Pippa. I always like it when local governments do that.
Yeah, it's probably the safest way to negotiate a city on a push bike. It's quite interesting to watching that kind of washing machine effect of all the riders moving up on the outside and then trying to get back into some shelter again, and that's one of the problems with the 3-lane highway here.
So this to be completely exact. James Whelan and the rider of the Konya team. It's good that he shows the colours of the team, and it looks like they are going to finish this race with just 2 riders, but we did see one of their riders at the front, so that's nice. A really high pace at the moment with Polti, DSM Firmenich, kind of mixed there with Frank van der Broek, despite the fact that that he has the leader's jersey after his win yesterday, is participating in that sprint train around Fabio Jacobsen, with Bram Welte and Tobias Lund Andresen as the 2 lead-out riders. Giovanni Leonardi in the green jersey. Sam Welsford, of course, for Bora Hansgrohe. Mark Cavendish for Astana, Kazakhstan. He's won it before. That was in 2015. Exactly the same finish as we have today. It's a really high pace at the moment. Korotec, Fini-Fantini still at the front with their rider, Jakub Mareczko. Timothy Dupont throwing away a bottle as we speak. The Belgian sprinter, already successful earlier this year in one of the Chinese stage races. And Polti Kometa protecting Giovanni Leonardi. Look at the flags there. It's rather windy, and it's a little bit of a cross headwind. That means that it's going to be a cross tailwind for the final 1,600 meters, and that is going to be rather challenging in timing your sprint. Of course, the riders know right now what the wind direction is going to be at the finish line, because they're basically there. It's just around the corner, but it's just like you said, Pippa, it's windier than it was predicted this morning.
Yeah, it's certainly going to affect this finish. It might seem fairly easy on the wheels at the moment, but as soon as you poke your face into when you're near the front, it'll be a bit of a shock.
Really great helicopter footage right here, how everybody is trying to move up on this really, really wide road. We also have Caja Rural quite possibly sprinting with Yuri Leitao. He was already in the top 5 2 days ago, so also a name to look out for. Stage winner last year in the Tour of Croatia. A lot of spectators there on the side of the road. This is the finish on the other side of the road. That means that we're about 1.5 kilometers out, 2 kilometers out from our U-turn. And this is really, really exciting. We have Frank van der Broek in that leader's jersey. He's not part of Astana, Kazakhstan. He almost wears the same kind of jersey. We have Q36.5 still at the front with Rory Townsend. Fini-Fantini are there with Giulio Massotto trying to defend his place there, make sure that his team leader is in good position. This is Max Kanter. We're looking out for Mark Cavendish. He might still be nicely tucked in the peloton, well protected, Pippa, but I don't see him just yet.
Not either. No, it's not him there on the left.
No, he has got a white helmet, so really, there he is, moving to the front right now, onto the wheel of Max Kanter.
Yeah, so he's
and this looks like
into the turn, probably about third, fourth position.
Yeah. And we saw in that finish, that second stage by Tobias Lund Andersen, that it's absolutely vital to get into that turn in first place. For DSM Firmenich PostNL, that was Bram Welter doing the honours. It looks like Ballerini is now going to be the rider doing it. We also have Rudiger Selig still there. Everybody wants to be on the wheel of the Astana Kazakhstan train. And Roy Townsend has now got the wheel of Mark Cavendish. Bora Hansgrohe are a little bit scattered at the moment with Sam Welsford, only one rider in front of him. Everybody's trying to find each other as that U-turn is coming up. This is going to be absolutely pivotal. And now it's up to the riders of Bike 8 there with Leo Bouffier in second place, their sprinter, going into the U-turn. It's going to be more like an interval. We have a crash, sadly, as well on the outside. So some of the riders of Alpecin Pimapen and many riders being held back. And now we have to get back to the front. Giovanni Leonardi is still there. Fabio Jakobsen most definitely is still there. Mark Cavendish is still there. Yeah, this is what happened on the outside of the turn. But we have to go back to the front. This is Frederik Vandal of Bora. But we have to get back to the front. We're inside the final kilometre. It's now up to Bardiani. We've got Bike 8. We've got the team of Giovanni Leonardi, who's a little bit further back in that green jersey. Now it's Timothy Dupont moving to the front with Fabio Jakobsen there as well. We have Sam Welsford still in this group. Mark Cavendish is currently at the front of the sprint train of Astana, Kazakhstan, kind of maybe indicating that the sprint yet again is going to be for Max Kanter. No, Kanter is now moving ahead of Cavendish. This is the final 500 metres of stage 7. The pace is really high. It's looking rather good at the moment for Fabio Jakobsen, but there comes the sprint by Ballerini and with Kanter, with Mark Cavendish kind of speeding alongside the road on the left-hand side. Mirko Maisty, the rider in front of him, Timothy Dupont on the wheel of Cavendish. We also see Fabio Jakobsen trying to make a move to the front. This looks rather good from the Astana Kazakhstan team, but now the lead out as well by Tobias Andersen. Where is Fabio Jakobsen? Is this another case of a lead out doing the lead out for himself? It's exactly that. It's a third stage win for Tobias Lund Andresen.
Wow, and Mark Cavendish looked like he was in really good position, and looks like he's dropped his chain or something. He had some kind of mechanical there. He just stopped pedaling just as Andersen took up the sprint.
Well, he had his first professional win this week, and now he's got 3.
Yep. And how many wins is that for DSM? 6?
5?
5?
6? 5, yeah.
5? Fabio
Jakobsen, Frank van der Broek, and 3 times
Yeah,
Tobias Lund Andresen.
5 out of 7 is not too bad.
It's a pretty decent score. Well, I would like to see that sprint again with the overhead shot. This was, of course, an important moment, but it doesn't look like Cavendish or Jakobsen or riders involved. The biggest team involved is actually Alpecin there with their sprint.